Welcome to the Firepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff McDowell Jr.
And I'm Bennett Grove.
Between us, we have 20 years of firefighting experience.
And over 15 years of experience building, growing, and leading small businesses.
Each episode, we get after it by discussing leadership, life, and development.
We'll also unpack the wins and losses that we've experienced along the way.
You ready, big dog?
I'm ready, my man.
Let's get it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Firepreneurs Podcast. Today is a special day for us, September 11th. We're going to obviously delve into the events of today that happened 19 years ago. And we also have our first guest with us, Mr. Johnny Baker. Johnny is a Fire Dawg Junk Removal alumni. We work together, and we've remained friends throughout the years. He's currently on the Indianapolis Fire Department. And he is also an Air Force vet, an actual fire dog, military firefighter, for those that don't know that the military firefighters are fire dogs. So we're going to delve into some Fire Dawgs Junk Removal history, share some stories of the past and some shenanigans, and then we're going to obviously talk about the major events of today and how they've shaped us to where we are along our leadership journey and kind of brought almost all three of us together, really. So
hold on 1 second, Jeff.
Yes.
One thing we have to include in this intro is that this guy is a bona fide rascal. So when you think of the word rascal and what that means in terms of like a definition, he is sitting between McDowell and I right now. And
yes.
You're about to get one of the true rascals of the rascals.
Well, you said shenanigans, and what's that place with all that crazy stuff on the walls?
Shenanigans? You mean shenanigans,
There was
right?
There was a lot of shenanigans early days of junk dogs, fire dogs there. Maybe a little bit more than work on some days, but now it's fine tuned, and you've really done nice with the place.
Oh, thanks.
Really appreciate that. Appreciate it. So we've got to delve into it, man.
I'm happy to be here.
Glad to have you, of course. The big story that you and I share. This is one of my early days, and was it your first day? Battle of Bud Run.
I think Battle of Bud Run was my first actual day.
It was the first day. And
hold on. I was having flashbacks real quick. I got my combat action ribbon, and like I said, my Fire Dawgs, little sad face. For
Yeah,
me.
that's right. Right.
He's the one that's responsible for the new guy starter kit. So day one passes, Johnny Baker's out there on Battle of Bud Run, and the next day he's going out, and I pick him up, and he's got a 32-ounce Gatorade, a 20-ounce Gatorade, a 6-pack of bananas, and a couple power bars. He says, I'm not making that mistake again. No. So that's the new guy starter kit.
Yeah, especially in the middle of summer.
We just kept on going, and I was treating it like a fire. Man, I can't take a break. We got to finish this job, man. I got to make my brothers proud.
Right.
And still had that Fire Dawg mentality, which I still got it, but keep on going, work through it. No, it was hot. It was definitely
to set up the job that we're discussing. The project was on a street called Bud Run, which coined the term Battle of Bud Run.
Battle of Bud Run.
There was a very steep hill in this backyard with a half pipe on it that had
underestimated half pipe, which
Yes.
is underestimated by me. FYI. Yes, plenty of mistakes made.
So, a very long walk up a steep hill on a very hot day, humid day, and I remember rolling up to the scene with Aaron TG.
Yeah.
We come in as reinforcements to help try to knock this job out, and Johnny is sitting on the deck with his hands and arms
gnarled. His fingers are gnarled, and he's like
so cramped up he can barely move his hands.
Sometimes it'd be like that. I was doing two-a-days at the time, and really for the whole time I was with the company, which I still consider myself, with the company.
Hall of Famer, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But, getting ready for the IFD CPAT, and so I was hitting the step mill, doing all that stuff, and I just we overdid it on that one. It was we were hurting, but it kind of I was like, maybe I don't need this job. No, I never thought about that. I thought, hey, don't make that mistake again. Be more prepared. This. treat it more serious. This isn't just, coming and picking up somebody's trash. This is, this is a lot of work. And, I think more guys that want to be firemen should try to, come and work for the company, learn, because it's, you guys have structured it, like the fire department structure. And I think that's great because it sets them up for success. And we can talk more about it, but I always say, you got to be a builder of men, not breaker downer of men.
Yes, sir.
There's probably, better words to describe it, but I like keeping it in fireman talk, builder of men, breaker downer of men, set guys up. They could have that day said, hey, what's up, man? Do you not come prepared? You not think that this was going to be serious? No, not once. They're like, drink your Gatorade, and then let's get this job done. And we're like, all right, come on, Fire Dawg. That's right. And we got it done. There was harder jobs that we had after that, but we were definitely more prepared. We wrapped our mind around this situation, and like fires, the situation, dictates what you're going to do. And we moved on from there, and we did some solid work, and y'all have built on that.
Yeah. So I got one more funny add-on to this story, though.
We're still talking about the battle.
Dude, you remember Curtis Macy and Jason Hoffmeister, right?
Oh, I remember them all.
Yeah, so those are two other fire dogs who work at Grissom Fire Department. Curtis actually works in our Fort Wayne office. He's running the op up there. But that day, it was all hands on deck. We call it an AHOD situation. We still have those today where a team is struggling at the end of the day, so all the crews go there at the end of the day and meet and help try to get the job done. So it was an AHOD, and McDowell showed up with Tej that day, and I was rolling with, I think it was Isles, or maybe it was me and you. Maybe I have it mixed up, but I showed up at the end of the day, and I remember I was en route, and it was like already after 6. It was a late day.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's ready to be done. And I show up, and it was in the box truck. You remember the box truck with the lift gate?
Yep.
So I get a phone call from
sled.
It was too, man. I get a phone call from Curtis, and he's like, hey, we're dumping right now. Do we need to come back? And I had just pulled up, and Johnny was beat. All the teams were beat. You were like looking at me like, because Jeff is still the new guy, right? So now Jeff today is not what he was then. Jeff was the new guy. He's looking at me with that look like, please tell me we're done. And I roll up and I look, and I said to Curtis, I'm like, hey, you know what, man? We're going to call it a wrap today. Me, Tej, and Baker will come back and finish this tomorrow. And,
Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. Is we about to go to the upper room? We're about to go, man. So.
The funniest story that came out of that was Hoff was driving the Ford, and Macy looks over and he goes, we're going home, brother.
I'm going home. We played a bunch of sad songs on the radio going back. We're like, we did it.
Yeah.
I kissed the kids and the wife. I made it back. She was like, oh, dear, what have you done today?
That night, your wife printed out a picture of me, put it on a dartboard.
Yeah.
And started firing those things away, right?
Yeah, that was
she doesn't have any sympathy. She's like, oh, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn today. Here's your Gatorade. Lala from Hot Georgia. She don't care about all that. What, a little heat?
Yeah.
But it was some hot Georgia heat here in Indy.
Yes, sir.
But good times, good times. I think that made us it made us get closer
sure.
a lot quicker than normal, and it's kind of like that at a firehouse too. You go, you're hanging out with some guys, you might be subbing through, which is an Indy thing, having to sub, because you don't get assigned to a station right off, so you make a tour of the city.
Right.
That's what McSwole over here is doing right now. And, you're new to a lot of the guys, but once you get that fire, with your crew, I don't know, it just, you have more jokes, you have more fun, somebody might have had to help you out, or you might have helped somebody out, and you just don't forget stuff like that, But it's all good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Character building.
That's right. Builds character, defining moments for sure. And obviously it's something we still talk about today, even to the new guys. It's a historic day in Fire Dawgs history. It's Battle of Bud Run. So.
It is. But even before that, I guess on a more serious note was that I had resigned, after working for 4 years as an Air Force fireman, always be a fire dog. So that's gave me some awesome training. The Air Force fire protection did more for me than I ever did for it. Everybody says, "Oh, happy, thank you for your service." I'm like, I need to thank the Air Force. I need to thank the military for making me what I am. So, and it gave me a lot of opportunities. And I wanted to get on IFD, but I essentially went back to where I grew up down in coastal Georgia, the Glenn County Fire Department, as a 8-station, 420 square miles. It's a good place. Go visit it. No, but I was there. I was primarily a senior man backstepper, but at a young age, and then went through the promotion process. Did fairly well on it because they used a lot of picture books, so I think I did good. I filled out my stuff in crayons and then I ate them for a snack. But did great because I was in it, 100%. Any kind of mistakes that I had made in the Air Force, like, showing up drunk or anything like that, I tried to really make up at Glenn County, 100%. Love those guys down there. But I really wanted to be on Indianapolis Fire Department, and I have a family history on IFD.
Can you delve into that a little bit?
After I touch on some, because I want to give this man props.
Of course.
So I resigned there whenever I found out, that IFD was finally hiring after 5.5-year freeze. So I was down there for 5.5 years. I resigned, and Lala, my wife, she let us come up here, roll the dice 2 weeks before the written for IFD's test, and she found a job, but I didn't have a job. The only thing I've ever known how to do is be a fireman and a lifeguard. I'm not the smartest. I've been in trouble, through my young life.
Say what?
And just a little, just a little bit. But I didn't have much I could do, and my family, I only had 2 kids at the time, but we didn't know what we were going to do, and we were basically. McDonald's dollar millionaires, Yeah, I want that $1, McDouble. We're going to cut it up in different ways. And, I got to looking online. I saw the company, and, I put in an app, saw that they were Fire Dawgs, and they said, yeah, we'll have a meeting with you, an interview with you, no questions asked, basically because I was an Air Force fireman. It's a fraternal thing. So we show up there in Speedway, and I meet with these guys. They hire me right there, and I just, even then I knew that it was a big deal. But looking back, that really helped my family out, and I want to thank you for that. And you did what was right by me. I just wish more guys would, do what's right by each other. Like I said, that builder of men thing, because as a man, that afforded me the opportunity to feed my family and for me to focus on, my dream of being an Indianapolis fireman. And that was probably the longest year of my life. But luckily they had like some, sad kid program for juveniles, and they were hiring a bunch of, kids from bad backgrounds. And so
that's right.
No, actually my class was a, military hire. I think we had 12 guys that were combat vets, and that helped me move up the list, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you, brother, and that's why I couldn't be more happy to be here.
My man.
So, yeah.
I can tell you that's mutual too, because Aaron TG was my business partner when I started this business in 2011. He's no longer an owner, but he's still forever ingrained in our history. And
sure,
I know that you coming on board, McDole being on board, for TG and I, who were still full-time firefighters, like you guys were absolute, game changers. And so that feeling is mutual. You totally got us through some tough times when we were trying to figure out making all kinds of mistakes. And,
can you run a jackhammer? Sure. That was great.
Yeah, I was going to say we definitely made and still do make mistakes in the company. But one thing that we've always had from the beginning is to build men, right? Build leaders and
Sure.
try to help people grow in that process. So it's good to hear coming from you, one of the early employees, that you feel that way.
You know, sometimes saying it and people always, oh yeah, thank you for your service, all this stuff. You know, social media has made it cheesy to, you know, talk like men and show appreciation to other men and stuff like that. But you know what? Look at the world right now. Maybe we need a little bit more of that, a little bit more of the old school fire department mentality. Go back to our roots and just help each other out. You know,
Right.
You know, because if you want to play that, break down people, all right, let's go. You know, we'll get our group together and we'll play that. But it's just not much good will come from that, right. Will it?
No.
I mean, it's bad results. So you might as well get on board, you know. Get on board or get ran over.
Yeah.
So
I want you to talk a little bit about yourself some more.
Yeah.
But your legacy, your history with the Indianapolis Fire Department is a pretty interesting one. So I want you to touch on that for us.
On this day, I hate to talk too much about myself because, you know, we owe it to those guys.
For sure.
Those guys that died. But, you know, they were a part of, you know, me accelerating, you know, my decision to, you know, follow that family tradition and be a fireman. So, like I said, my hat off to them, the 343, you know, and then the ones that are still dying of cancer today.
Right.
So thank you to them. But as far as I go, I already said, you know, I got here, you know, I have a couple of family ties, and I'm really proud of them. You know, if you don't know about them, then you might not have ran into me because I'm quick to tell you, you know, it's just something I'm very proud about, you know. I'm proud of my family. And, but I guess it would have started back in, 1859. My great-grandfather, Samuel Dunn Maxwell, he was the mayor of Indianapolis. And, you know, they were having little gangs of New York problems with the fire service. You know, the guys were sitting there.
Marion County Hose Company.
Yeah, drinking whiskey and sitting there and doing the plug ugly thing, you know, putting the biggest guy on the plug. And, you know, it was like fire insurance companies. Hey, this is our fire. Oh, you say it's my fire. You know, you coming at each other. And next thing you know, guys are passed out, you know, beat up in the, you know. So they had to have a little bit more accountability. So he got rid of the volunteers. It just wasn't something that was going to work for what Indianapolis was becoming. And he put together a public safety board, and they created the paid Indianapolis Fire Force. You know, it had been since 1826 had already been in place. They had some firehouses. But 1859 is whenever they decided to go full paid. Because the paid firemen never drank whiskey nor threw brickbats. Not true. But sorry, Grandpa. No, but and then his grandson came on in 1880 by the same name, but Samuel Anderson Maxwell. These were all Scots-Irish guys. You know, came over from Scotland and Ireland. You know, had that kind of culture that the fire department is steeped in. A lot of our traditions come from those great countries. So, but he came on, and he one of the stations he was stationed at is the Union Hall. So whenever I go there, I just feel a sense of, you know, just something awesome comes over me. Like my family has been there before, you know, that's in my blood. That's one reason I'm so passionate about him. But he was at the Bow and Merrill Fire, which was on St. Patrick's Day in 1890, and we lost, you know, quite a few guys. Mm-hmm. The numbers keep on going up because they find guys who died after, you know, at one time it was injuries, 12, right. Then they're finding 13, 14, you know, they're finding more and more thanks to Killalay, who's at the Union Hall. He's our historian. He's digging up bones, you know. He's in the newspapers and finding all this kind of stuff. So that's that's really cool. And he worked with some great early firemen of that time. There was a lot of politics at play at that time, but he ended up, he was off the job for a little bit, either drinking or something. Yeah. But he came back and finished out until 1906. I had a great uncle who was Ed Miller. He rode the back step for 44 years.
It's impressive.
And his crew was probably the oldest crew on IFD, and they all had over 40 years. It was Ed Miller, Ed Hollander, and then Brownie. And whenever they retired, Gary Varvel, the artist for the Indy Star, he drew a picture of those three, old salty dudes.
That's awesome.
I hear stories about him, from some of the guys. One of the training captains, he was telling me that he came into the 15s one time and he was like, what's this real old dude working here, And then before he knew it, tones drop, they go to a fire, and that old dude, my great uncle's up there with an axe just going to town, And he's like, he outworked all those young dudes. It was just something in him.
Yeah.
It was something in him. That's work until you pass out at Bud Run, kind of mentality. And that's kind of an IFD way, aggressive interior, operations. Get in, do good work. Even if you got to get sick and pass out, get the job done.
Right.
It's always good to get in there quick. And most of the times, you put water on the fire and do some rescues, the fire will go out, They say as that first line goes, so goes the rest of the fire, right?
Right. So
you just get in there and you try as hard as you can. All this safety stuff I think has gotten in the way of some progress. Firemen are going to get hurt.
Right.
FDNY said that to us,
It's the nature of the job.
Yeah. Firemen are going to get killed in the line of duty. It's not something that we want, but it's going to happen because they signed up. The city pays our wages. The city pays our families to eat and affords us all these opportunities. We're supposed to risk for them,
Right.
I went to a job. I applied one place outside of Savannah for a little while, and before here, and I wasn't really happy with the place. I won't even say the name because I'm sure that they've changed, But they sat me down at the oral interviews, and they asked me about, what would you do if you knew that your life was in danger and your crew's life was in danger, but there was still someone inside? And I basically said, well, we signed up to, save them, and then I would probably worry about my guys, and then I'd worry about myself. And somebody actually pulled me aside after the interview and was like, no, that's not actually what we had here. It's that you're supposed to worry about yourself, because if you hurt yourself, then then somebody's going to have to rescue you. And I said, well, that's good because I don't want to work here. No, it's them, and then it's we, and then it's me. And I've talked with my wife. That's a hard talk, but she knows she's down. She always has been, and we don't like to talk about that much, and it's not to glorify anything. It's not to beat your chest but it's the culture.
Right.
Is knowing that, hey, don't be mad at me if I get hurt, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, a literal oath
we need
to serve.
Yeah, we need a little bit more people to risk a little bit more instead of worrying about them so much, Definitely got me up on a soapbox.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, I still want to finish your family tree here, because your family tree goes back to more than just your uncle, but that mindset you're talking about is a segue into today.
Yes.
Why we never forget and we always remember the 343, because talk about guys that lived it and walked it. Not just guys, but guys, gals, people that went into a situation where it wasn't like the Vince Vaughn of Four Christmases, like, well, I have to put my breathing mask on first in the airplane so that I can take care of you.
Right.
Those were guys that they knew immediately wasn't even wasn't even a thought. So
a lot of them knew that that they weren't going to make it out.
right,
Look at Patty Brown. They let him know it wasn't looking so good, and he said, "All right, 3 trucks still going up."
Right.
And they did, and they died. They were the bravest of brave. We ride their, coattails, and we ride almost any fire department in our country rides FDNY's coattails because they lost 343 guys. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's bigger than most departments alone.
And that was just that day.
We're 1,250 now, IFD.
Yep.
But man, 343 is almost a full shift. Can you imagine losing a whole shift? That's nuts.
Yeah.
And those guys saying, "Hey, I don't care. I'm still going up." Ariel Palmer, that guy, he was one of the first chiefs there on scene. And he gets up. There was elevators. He was South Tower, and he gets up there. The radios weren't working. He fixed the radio, repeater or whatever was going wrong with it. He fixed an elevator. He got up to like the 40th floor, and he was a marathon runner, so he kept on going up and going up, and he was able to get back and tell those guys. He was like, they're like, "Where are you at now, Oreo?" And he's like, 55 floor, okay? Still going, and he made it up to the impact zone, and which was essentially the bridge between the living and the dead. We're not sitting here being dramatic because this is this like a movie,
Right. Exactly.
It's not Hollywood. It's real life. He was up there. The people were screaming for his help. A lot of them probably knew that they were going to die. But to see him, this guy in marathon runner, you could tell that he was winded. Got up there, 78? I can't remember what floor.
Yeah, upper 70s, low 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they couldn't exactly track, but they know he got to 78, I think. And he was still trying to let people know, "We're coming for you." Yeah, some people might think that that's false hope, but what a comfort to know that you hadn't been forgotten about.
man,
That they're coming after you, and that they know that they're probably going to die too. I just can't fathom it and that magnitude. But, a lot of us, now that you've been on, you see it from day to day in smaller doses. Even some of these nickel and dime house fires get a little hairy.
Right.
But not only do we ride those guys' coattails, because it made America look at the firemen a little bit different. Even though I wanted them to always know that a lot of people aren't heroes. Like, we don't consider ourselves heroes. We're blue-collar workers. It's a blue-collar profession. We're tradesmen. Mm-hmm. This is what we do, and it's a great job. We never have to grow up. we get to keep on with the shenanigans. I told you if you said shenanigans one more time.
to be a rascal.
But in Indianapolis, we've also had a lot of loss of life, and we owe it to them, And so that's why I said, maybe throw a little bit more cheese on it. Throw some cheese on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get back to some of that, talk about honor and a sense of duty, and brotherhood, not backstabbing each other. Break bread with your people. You go through all these houses. I was always told, if you can't sit across from somebody and break bread with them, then you can't trust them in a fire.
Right.
Get to know them. Get your, what are they, earbuds. Get you. I'm an old man. I want my pudding. Let me drink my bang. But take those out of your ear and learn about the stories from your senior men.
Right.
The senior men that have kept this tradition going, our culture. You might come from all these other cultures, which is fine, and I'm going to be like, "Oh, that's awesome that you came from that. Oh, cool, you're Latino, you're white, you're Irish, you're Italian, you're black. That's cool. That's awesome. But also, there's been a lot of all of those within the fire service. So you got to buy into our culture,
Right.
Whether that be buy into the Emerald Society, which is your Irish and your Celtic, buy into the, BFA or the Vulcan societies that are black firemen, which Indianapolis has a proud tradition of. That's great. But these men within it had their culture together, and they were all brothers, So I wish people would look at it like that a little bit more, I'm trying to get away from talking about myself more, but
Right.
Well, here's a question I'll bring to you, Johnny, because this podcast today, we wanted you on because of your history in the fire service and the fact that you live it. And I think that when we talk about never forgetting, there's people that live that. It's when you say never forget, you can't just never forget on one day. You have to live it. So talk to us about how you can live it in the fire service on a daily basis, and not only just in the fire service, but how can we carry over the mindset of like never forgetting and instill that into our daily leadership practices? Because the Firepreneurs Podcast, what we're trying to deliver here is value, just not only in never forgetting and your principles in the fire service, but also how you can take that mindset and apply it to daily leadership practices. Because not everybody listening to this is going to be a firefighter, right?
yeah.
But the things that we instill in ourselves by never forgetting, that carries over into leadership. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I got that on my wrist here, never forget. And, people say that way too much and they forget, but I don't forget. And I live it, I'm not better than other firemen. I'm a little crazier than some firemen, so that makes me want to run into the fire, No, but, there's so many lessons from the fire service in its early days that you can apply to now. But a lot of lessons from, those that died that day. And you said, remembering them every day. You don't have to sit there and get emotional or, shed a tear every day, but your actions should definitely reflect, what they set forth. And, the early members of the fire service set forth, that blue-collar, hard work, aggressive, mentality. And FDNY and IFD are alike in that. Chicago's alike in that, Toledo even. I got a good buddy there. They stay aggressive.
Right.
St. Louis, East St. Louis, Gary, they're still getting in there, And so that's where you don't need to get it twisted, is that you're not some kind of, hero. You can. There are heroes among us. I've gotten to work with a couple here and there, but whenever I was working with them, I had my ears open.
Right.
And I will say something about my family legacy, because it's last month it got to get continued by one, my little cousin Skip.
Yeah, buddy.
Old Kyle Kaiser.
Also a Fire Dawg. Alum.
Yep, he is. And not much to look at. He might blow away in a strong breeze. But no, I will say he's tough.
Yeah.
He's a, blue-collar boy. He knows HVAC. He knows building construction. He knows how to get dirty. Yeah. And somebody told him the other day, yeah, it must be in your family that you guys sweat dirt. You always got the dirty face and always got the fire stuff all over you. You cones, you sweat dirt, but he got to, he got on IFD, and I couldn't be more proud, just ask anybody I work with. I've been talking, yeah, you seen Skip? Look at him. He's all grown up. Look at him. He was, I held him when he was a baby, look at you, little boy, but here's the thing about him. He came to me at 17, and he watched as I signed up for the Air Force and left. I signed up in 2002. I got to go in 2003. He was there, and he was a little kid, and it stuck with him. and he finally came to me, and he had some troubles, and but he said, I want to do this. I said, well, if you want to do this, I've tried to help a lot of people. Some people have gotten on the job and done great, but you got to listen, and you got to try to do all these things that we set up. So I'm not going to be easy on you. You know, you got to do this, this, this. He did every step. No complaining. It was hard. And then he got on IFD. I got to work with him the other day. He subbed through the 19s, and it's just amazing to keep that going because our names are tied together. We're tied through heritage, and he, you know, luckily he's also borderline insane and will run into the fire, no questions asked. But part of that is yeah, we're taking a risk, but we're also it is calculated because I've done my homework. I've taken, you know, Brannigan's building construction, stuff like that. You know, I've read John Norman's books about, you know, leadership in the fire service and broken down things. So I'm not just running in. I'm trying to make an educated, even me, decision, you know. But I would say a big thing is to, as a new guy, and McDowell has heard all this. He's done all this too. And that's why I'm so proud of him, but he's sitting here, so I don't want him to let him know how proud I am.
We can't know we're proud of him.
Right.
But he was a stud through it all. You really were, and I'm proud of you. You know how proud I am of you at that. But it's kind of like get dirty and listen to your senior men, you know, and buy into the fire service. And he's done all of that. Skip's done all of that. That's how we continue this culture, you know. And the senior man culture, it's dying off. We got to bring it back.
Yeah.
We had a huge senior man culture in the Air Force. A lot of times your senior airman ran it, you know, and if it had to go up to the staff sergeant, it gone too far, you know.
Right.
So that senior man tried to corral it. Hey kid, we're standing at roll call and you look like it's Mortal Kombat, like finish him. Maybe come to work a little bit more prepared. You might want to stop the drinking so much there, lad. You know, but it's just, you know, going back today, I just can't help but go back to 9/11. It's been on my mind and on my heart all week. And but the senior man, one of the biggest senior men that died that day was from a rescue, you know. And that's a pretty big deal there, FDNY. But it's Joseph Angelini. Him and his son died in the attacks that day. But this dude was, this was an old dude. You're looking at him, you know. Sometimes you go around to the stations, you're like, you know, who's this old dude? Like my great uncle and stuff. But those guys are the guys with the most knowledge,
Right?
You know, listen to their stories. You know, they've definitely forgotten more than you know.
Yes.
So
sure.
open up your ears and your mind and listen to these guys. They're an invaluable resource.
Right.
You know? And that's just why I wish that they would shorten some of these fire academies and let you guys come out to the companies and listen to these guys, you know, because they're just a wealth.
I'll jump in on that. So Jocko Willink, who I don't know Jocko personally, I've never met him, but the benefit of 2020 is you can have a tribe of mentors without actually having met the people that you look up to, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And so he's somebody I listen to and read his books and continue to look to for good leadership, sound leadership advice. He says something that's he goes, at 23, I thought I knew everything. So then at 33, I realized at 23 I didn't know anything, but at 33 I knew it all, right? And then at 37 I was like, okay, well definitely didn't know anything at 23, and I still didn't know everything at 33, but at 37, I got it, right? He goes, so now I'm 43, and now I finally understand that at 43, I still don't know everything, and I definitely didn't know anything at 37, 33, and 23. And you know, so there's a lot of things to take away from that, but coming back to what we're talking about is the senior man is, you know, that's where you can find your wisdom. That's where you can find a path. That's where you can find somebody to look up to. That's where you can find somebody to model your career after, or you can just take away little nuggets here and there, right? But the thing that I think we're talking about is that to carry on the legacy and never forget what people sacrificed in 9/11 is that you have to know that there was a culture there And in that culture was building leaders and having senior men or senior women that were molding people.
Most definitely.
Or had the lessons to teach. And that is applicable across the board. So how can you live a daily life of never forgetting is continue to seek wisdom, continue to look for a better way, continue to look up to people who have been there, done that, and try to just be better every day. And that we can instill that in anybody, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, not being afraid to make mistakes, not blatant mistakes. I mean, it happens, but you know, we've talked. I was a knucklehead airman at times. You know, I was 19. You know, and shoot, I'm 37 now.
You went in 03, right? Air Force?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
signed
did
up 02, and then the late entry program didn't get to go in because I wanted to be a fire dog.
Yeah.
But so I didn't know shit. I did not. I mean, you know, kind of came from, you know, a different background from some of the people, and it just, I wasn't set up for success in there. Really, if I wasn't a wrestler, you know, that helped me out through a lot of this stuff. But making some of those bad mistakes early on is why I'm, you know, better now. You know, just keep on trying to get better. You can make those mistakes, but I had some great senior men. I could just name off a bunch, but one comes to mind. His name is Shane Danforth. He was a Marine Corps fireman, but he was a DOD civilian at Robbins, and he would just be like, he Joe Don Baker, call me Joe Don Baker from Walking Tall. We had so many different nicknames, but he'd be like, "What are you doing? You know, just come on, bud, you can do better than this." And then he helped me do some youth wrestling stuff there in the community. You know, but on the job, this is how you do it. He took a bunch of us young airmen, and it just, so many guys that were there at that time. I have so many names I could just go off and say, but really stuck out. But and I bought in. I really bought into what he was saying. That's why I wanted to do better and better. I'm not great. You know, I love doing the job. I try to do the best I can. Any fire, I try to get in there, put it out.
Right.
You know, but I've definitely learned from my mistakes. But buying into Danforth is kind of crazy. When I was coming up here and I was working, you know, hauling that junk, I went and did a ride out at the 27s. I was an Emerald Society member. I was Sergeant at Arms down at Golden Isles Emerald Society down there in Brunswick, Georgia. And so I found the Indianapolis Firefighters Emerald Society, and I found the president, Jerry Martin. He's a chief. Chief Jerry Martin, amazing dude. Give you the shirt off his back. He's now our ops chief for IFD. And he was a captain at the time at 27s. Definitely one of the most notable companies on IFD, and always fighting fire. They're in the swamp there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Their reputation.
One of the busier houses too, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. They not only do a lot of fires, they also have to do a lot of EMS, and their numbers are always up there. They're always up at the top.
Yep.
You know, but you know, I went there and I'm talking with him. He didn't know me from Adam. You know, he was like, "Yeah, I could tell you're really passionate." We were talking about our history and stuff. So he was like, "I was a Marine Corps fireman." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. You were a fire dog?" He was like, "Hell yeah, brother." You know, and he's like, "Well, where were you?" I said, "Robbins." He was like, "You happen to know Shane Danforth?" I said, "Yeah, that was my rescue captain at Robbins. He was a mentor to me, you know." And he's like, "I was on the backstep with Shane. We're backstep buddies." It's a small world, you know. And had I not bought into that, I just don't think stuff like that would come together. You know, he probably hit up Danforth. He probably said, "How is this kid?" And Danforth said, "Hey, he had some problems in the beginning, but he's tried to make a lot of himself, you know." And, you know, that's just one guy that checked up on me through the interview process, you know. So buy into it. Put your work in, you know.
That's
Get
right
dirty.
there how you, to me, that's how your story is an example of how you never forget.
Yes.
Because like Johnny said earlier, and I think this too, like you can't just, quote unquote, never forget on 9/11 or the days leading up to 9/11. But at the same time, you also can't sit there in a dark room with stare at blank walls every day. So what you do is you live with your actions and let your actions tell a story. And some of the stories we're hearing here are people who went to work in the fire service every day and just tried to do it right. And by doing it right, they would show up, learn their job, treat it like a craft, and grab the guy below and try to bring him up. Yeah. That's how you never forget, because that's how you keep the culture in the fire service. And just like this guy, right? Oh, do you know Danforth? Because he's from a different department, but they knew each other because he made an impression. Yeah. Because he put the work in. And I don't know this guy, but I'm just listening to your story. But I know people just like him. Yeah. That sure. Just like it. I know a Danforth, a different department, you know. And it's so funny because, you know, I was at Grissom, one of my last shifts, and there's a kid. I don't know him. He just came through. He was 1 year old when 9/11 happened, right? And now he's being trained by guys that were not in the fire service yet when 9/11 happened. And then maybe there still were some guys that were in the fire service when 9/11 happened, but for the most part, that reserve unit and the civilian workforce at Grissom were not in the fire service when 9/11 happened. So how can you take a never forget mindset, and that's go to work each day and know that you're responsible for carrying on the culture, the traditions, the sacrifice, the work ethic, the bringing people up mentality, doing that every day. Exactly. It's how you never forget, right? You take that kid that was 1 year old and you make sure he learns the right things.
Yeah, exactly. I saw there's an Indiana firefighter page. They post a lot of training stuff. There's a young woman on there that is into fitness, I guess. I won't make the fitness joke. But, she said she was going to do 343 burpees. How are you going to honor them? And, hey, that's cool. Great. Go do those 343 burpees, But are you also, trying to, continue your education in the fire service? Not just education like books. I'm talking about putting yourself in the place where you're going to get, the most knowledge and opportunity, or that's best for you. Are you listening to the stories of wherever you are? You don't have to be at your, state's biggest department or this and that to be an outstanding fireman. Right. I kind of wanted to come at her like that, even though, I'm coming with a chip on my shoulder, 9/11. And then seeing somebody young and chipper, but good for her, But I'm hoping that she wants to build on that and knows that it's not just being on social media, right. That it's actually putting in the work and getting dirty
when no one's looking.
Because a lot of these guys, a lot of firemen all over the United States that were on pre 9/11 were dudes who had it in the blood and wanted to do the work. They were in it for the shenanigans and the fires and a bunch of maniacs, just a bunch of maniac dudes and gals too. IFD had some maniacs that are still on the job that just love fire, that are female too. So don't get it twisted with that. It's just a lot of the people I'm seeing applying now. Some of them are, you're right. I am a hero. You thank me for my service, kind of mentality. And I don't think that should be fostered. No. I think, like I said, getting dirty, doing the work, somebody might come at me like, hey, well, Johnny, you always take pictures and stuff after fire. You have it on social media, that kind of stuff. What about that? Nah, that's for a different reason. That's for a different reason, homie. It's because how many guys have you worked with that aren't here anymore? That's quite a lot up in New York. They wish they probably took some pictures, and a lot of them did. After a while, you go back, you see all those guys chomping the cigars, or just having their arms around guys, taking care of each other, beat up, snotting out of a fire, face sooted. Great photos. We have them on an IFD too, but for a little while, people are like, oh yeah, quit putting pictures on there. Hey, these are my memories of these guys. I love these guys. I've got guys that are no longer with us. Some suicide, heart attacks, car wrecks, different things, and I'll always have that. And it kind of gets to hand down, one day those are going to be really old pictures. Some people might think that some of my pictures are old pictures, but it's great memories. And it kind of reminds me where I've been. I see pictures, whether it's from the Air Force with my boys. I had a crazy crew there. I tell you what, some of those guys. But Glenn County had some just dudes that were just straight up pirates ready to go and do crazy stuff. I have a picture of this huge train on fire, and there's like two little ants. Except for the two little ants are me and this guy named Robbie Payne that was sitting there just with one hand line. We went past another fireman, and she was like, I'm not going there, because cars were exploding in this train. And we come up, and my wife sees the picture later. What are those two little spots? That's you. And she got so mad at me. I love seeing these. 9/11 memorial that we had in Glenn County, we petitioned the Port Authority, and we got a steel beam, our Emerald Society there. I got to personally do a lot of the paperwork, and my dad actually helped out with getting it shipped and everything through FedEx. It was kind of great, but we had a big memorial, kind of almost a parade for it. And then we honored it with bagpipes and everything, and we read names, and it was great. And we vowed there to never forget. And there was a lot of people taking pictures. Well, one of the guys there, he's, I'm up here, and then I'm still working for you, and it's the day of my CPAT for IFD. I get a message that morning, Cheeto's killed himself, It's something that we got to do better at. At the time, it's nothing that we really talked about and stuff. But, every September 11th, I also see a picture of me and him. He's in his Army uniform there, and he's sitting there pointing at something, or, we have our arm around. And, you never take that away from me, So it's stuff like that. Buy into it. Take pictures. Get dirty, Don't take pictures if you had a loser. A loser is in like you lost the whole house and saved the foundation because you were too scared to go in. No, don't take that picture. But if you had a good job, what's wrong with saying good job on the good job, man?
Right.
And you can keep them to yourself if you want,
Yeah. I think one thing that through this conversation that we're kind of learning and getting out too is that there's more than one way to never forget. Right. It's not
right.
just September 11th. It's not just saying, hey, making a social media
you don't have to listen to my way.
Right. Right.
Or your way, but just find a way.
Yeah. And one thing I know that IFD Academy did a great job of, and I'm sure they preach throughout other fire trainings throughout the nation too, is we honor the fallen by learning what we didn't do right.
Exactly.
So we're not one of those that just, look at it and be like, okay, that's terrible, and then the same thing keeps happening. We honor it by making sure that the same things don't happen, and that's how we honor those people that have fallen. 9/11, obviously a big one, but throughout the fire service in general, we look at things that we could do better, right? We look at ourselves, we do that mirror test and say, hey, we messed up here. We really failed this fireman here, and this is the reason why he's no longer with us, and then we try to improve those things. So that's yet another way that we can honor those.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I know you're going to get this right. But what's a huge example of that on the IFD?
As far as
learning and on
talking about the athletic club fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It taught not only us here in Indianapolis lessons and lessons that have been handed down from great firemen on our job, but it also made its way out to the rest of the fire service world, and they learned stuff from that as well.
Yes. Yeah, so I think that's, and the other piece we're trying to get at too is again, we're in the business of building leaders through Fire Dawgs, through Firepreneurs. That's what we want to do. And
builders of men, man.
That's right. And coming up into the fire service, this is a big event that as Bennett kind of touched on a little bit, there are people that are going to be in the fire service that weren't born or were too young to even remember this.
Yeah.
And, it's something we've got to talk about and really instill in them, that why we do the things that we do and why we cannot forget that this ever happened.
Yeah, if you can't go to a ceremony and stuff and, you got some downtime at the fire, actually, I wouldn't even say for downtime. I'm saying training time, and pull up on YouTube, on all these different things on the computers they got, you can, I hear that you can make your phone play a show on the TV. No, but, get on there, the Gaudet brothers, I don't even know if I'm saying those French dudes' names right, but that documentary
That's a good one.
is nuts.
Yes.
It's
I bought that DVD.
It totally changed the way I saw that day because you got to see it through firemen's eyes. You got to humanize it. You saw the guy's immediate reaction.
Yes.
Because they pan over and they see the towers get hit, and you just see the guys like,
time to go to work.
That was words out of my mouth, out of my head movies. It's time to get to work. And they did. They ran in. Guys that weren't even going to be added on that initial box add me to the ticket.
Right.
And they came in there and ran up there like Ariel Palmer. I mean, the tin house was right there. They lost so many guys, but they didn't just stand there. They ran in. And that's another theme I can kind of think about is, actually, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but my family pastor just died this week. And good man, Randy Lamb. And he only had cancer for, I'm sure he had it for a while, but he was only diagnosed with cancer for about a week and a half before he died. And but he was a heck of a guy, man, and he was a big personality, real Southern dude. He was from Live Oak, Florida, but lived a lot there in Brunswick, Georgia, and but he would always say something to the effect of, forget the mule, grab the cart, or grab the wagon, and that's kind of like, maybe not the right action, is better than inaction. As long as you're working towards what's right, then get on that, get on that program, forget the mule, man. Just grab everything and go and give it hell or give it heaven and Brother Randy's.
We say that a lot. We say imperfect action. So something needs done, do something rather than do nothing.
Do something, because somebody's got to do something. And if it's not us, then I don't know who's it going to be.
Right.
Some of these hiring processes and stuff, not talking about anywhere specifically. No, but some fire departments, they got big city problems. They want to, check this box, that box. A lot of times those boxes are great. There's firemen that are great from all backgrounds as long as they want to get with this culture. But then they also want more education on the resume, and sometimes that's good. Like yourself, but you're more of a blue-collar schoolboy that got to go play some ball.
Fire Dawgs Academy.
That's right. But whenever they're looking for these guys, they sometimes stray away from getting those guys, like I feel like you and Skip and some other guys that we've hired that are just tough dudes that want to learn, want to love this job, and just want to get to work. They want to get those fires in. That's what we want to do is fight fires, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Well, I'll end with one more question, John, and then let's Jeff. You have anything else pressing? I mean, if there's any other questions you got, I wanted to end with one more.
Yeah, go for it.
So 9/11, I want to try and speak to people who may not have been a firefighter or don't aspire to be a firefighter, right? So you've talked a lot about good principles that are in the fire service, but I think are super applicable to anybody that is trying to think of ways to honor on 9/11, or, you know, find ways to incorporate that into their culture and their business that's not fire related, right? So the senior man idea, I want to talk about that real quick. I'm a big fan of that mentality.
Yes.
I definitely spent a lot of my time in my fire career trying to bring that back in different places. You know, crew continuity, senior man, that the back seat, the leader on the back seat can sometimes be just as impactful as the leader in the front seat.
Lead from the back step. It's a unofficial leader, right?
Exactly. And I think that mindset, what goes into having that belief system, is also something that you can apply to all different types of organizations, even if they're not fire related, because what you're really talking about is someone who has been there and has done some of that, enough of that to at least have some wisdom to share, and making sure they're reaching down and bringing up the next person.
Exactly.
And that to me is part of building leaders, you know, building people who are going to lead, but not everybody in the world can be a leader. You know, we need followers too, but even in a quote unquote follower position, you can still be a leader. And when I think about never forgetting 9/11, you know, you talked about like fitness. And, you know, for example, there's a workout that I like to do on the stair climber. I do my 110 stories, but I don't do it on 9/11 per se. Sometimes I do it on May 3rd or, you know, October 28th, you know, because.
But does it mean something to you at that time?
Because it means something to me.
Exactly.
And that's part of, you know, so what can you take away from this conversation today is that I think what we're saying is that each day rent is due.
Yes.
Right. Again, don't have to sit in a blank room and think about things and tear up, but you can go out there and put the work in. And so like in a senior man position, you may not be seeking advancement in the organization. You may not be trying to become the fire chief, right? You may not be trying to become the CEO or whatever, but you still go to work and take pride and put the work in each day. And that's segues into a different conversation Jeff and I just recently had about understanding your why. But if your why to go to work is because you're passionate about the career field, you're passionate about being a firefighter, and you're passionate about building leaders, then each day you go to work, even in a senior man capacity, where you're not the officer, you're not the battalion chief, you're not the assistant chief of operations, but you're still just as impactful.
You're chipping away every day. You know,
Absolutely.
just keep on chipping away.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to hit a goal, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I do believe in the senior man concept. You know, on other jobs, I've been in a more senior man role. Like Glenn County, I was in a junior, you know, leadership position. Leaving the Air Force, I was a, you know, senior airman, and you're kind of getting there. But here, you start over, you know. I had to start over with 10 years, and you know, people don't really always care where you came from. Even though they can't take that away from me, my experience, they want you to buy into the IFD culture, and I always wanted to do that. But you can't take away some of the great things I know and have learned mostly from my mistakes, you know, because we were running in with two dudes on an engine down in Glenn County, and that taught me a whole lot. So coming up here and you get four, and then plus a whole city of guys coming up to one fire and you're stomping it out, you know, I got to learn a couple of things from everywhere I've been. So part of being and I have a senior man. I'm a junior member of my engine company, Engine 19. I'm proud to be there. I'm even wearing the shirt, you know, because I love my company, you know, there in the valley. And, you know, I have a senior man. And part of a good senior man is whenever they want to teach. And also, if you have something that you can give as a probie or as a junior member of your engine company, whenever you first get assigned, you know, or truck company, is letting them go with it, you know, breathing a little bit of that new life. So a good senior man has to also say, well, what do you got to add to this company here?
Yep.
You know, how can you help us out? You know, we're going to help you out for sure. We're going to have that accountability, you know, but how can you help out? You got any ideas? You know, come fresh, come ready. Be thinking about it. You know, watch videos, read books if you can read. I can't. But just, go out with the guys or gals. Nothing's better besides my, the wife and kids. But next, right below that, and the good Lord, of course, is being together. What if it's at the pub, if it's at a cookout, if it's going down south to the lake, is being with those guys that got your back,
right?
And knowing your place, within it, and that you are part of that team. I don't think anything can beat that.
Yeah,
but
as a Chief Mormon states a lot, you got firefighters and you got paycheck collectors.
Yeah, and I don't try to mess with any paycheckers, and luckily we don't really have any on my crew. But so you're saying somebody who's not in the fire service, how can they do that? Well, it's just surrounding yourself with good people, and whatever level that they're at, which I felt like y'all tried to do. Except for, with me, they're like, we're going to take a chance on this cone, this hillbilly. No, but you did. You found people that you knew would buy in, and this, even though you're modeled after the fire service, it isn't technically the fire service, but I think that's why you've been so successful is how you modeled it. So if you are unrelated to it and you come in there, you surround yourself with good people and you try to build them up and teach somebody something. Be kind to people. I was at a point where I wasn't kind. I mean, back whenever we started, you were still allowed to fisticuff in the back. And now you would get fired,
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just, I know sometimes it's a kinder, gentler, but you can still be tough on people and have accountability in different ways. Sometimes whenever your daddy used to, give you a whooping, it definitely hurt. But sometimes it hurt worse whenever you'd say, "Hey, I'm disappointed in you, son, for putting those nails under the school bus tire. I'm disappointed for you." Yeah,
Rascal. Here's the rascal part of John.
Yeah, but
exactly.
But what I'm saying is sometimes whenever you let people know, you could you could show your teeth and you could be angry and stuff, and that might get them. But not everybody. They might need to hear, "Hey, you're really screwing up. You're disappointing me. We expect more out of you. Come on, step up." Yeah. That means a lot. I had two guys do that to me whenever I was at the 44s. I was there for about 6 months before I went to the 19s, and two of the best officers I've worked for, Lieutenant Jake Coker, who's now in Special Operations, and then Lieutenant Brent Morris, who gets detailed to the training academy.
Both great guys.
Great firemen. And that's what you want to be called in your career, is a great fireman, And two of those guys are, they're just great leaders, builders of men.
Right.
And they cared about me. They really did. And I put in good work for them, But the thing was, some of my habits from Georgia primarily was not to wear my mask. I still have a little bit of a hard time with it at times because I was taught to try to breathe some smoke and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make me tougher. It just, that's how I was at the time. Mm-hmm. And some of it is a little ignorance. That's how we ran, Try to conserve your area. Only use that thing if you really need it. That way you'll have your way out. Well, the new mindset is that it's causing cancer, right? So our SOPs are you got to wear it. You got to wear it now. I wasn't wearing mine in some fires. The boss Coker came up, and I'm in there just doing some random stuff, and I think punching through a ceiling, doing something, and spraying it down, and I don't have my mask on. And after that fire, they almost got hemmed up by the battalion chief because they had a member of their crew not wearing their mask, but they cared about me enough to pull me in there. And it's like I had my older brother and my uncle in there saying, "We love you, but we're disappointed and you got to do better." That's accountability.
Right.
So And I've tried. I really have. There's been some times where I just, felt like, okay, stuff's got to get done. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to wear it. And I do. I'm trying to get better. Lieutenant Estridge taught me, that with him dying of cancer. Great man. We lost way too early. But, if they could find that in the civilian world, of just, just building each other up, caring about people, giving people consideration. My wife hates it when I say this because I always say it in an argument, but, people that you care about and you love and you have a vested interest in, you're going to give them more consideration. So give that new kid some more consideration. Where's it coming from? If you don't sit there and tell them, hey, you got to do better, they probably won't do better. Right. If you don't say, hey, we like to sit around and eat here at the, fire table, at the dining room table and talk with each other and, maybe play a game of marbles or something like that afterwards, they're not going to know. Don't go behind their backs and try to break them down. Be a man enough or a woman enough or a fireman enough to go to their face and say, hey, we'd like you to do this. This is what we expect. Now that we're going to hold you accountable, but you got to help some people out, because while it might be obvious to us, we were raised like that. And we were lucky enough to come in at a time where we still had some of those briar patch guys. That's what we called them. They were just old school, salty briar patch guys who weren't even as salty as the guys that came before them, but we were lucky to be around those guys. So it's a little bit more obvious to us. Of course, don't be on your phone the whole time. Right. Of course, listen to your senior man. Some of these people don't know, so it's up to us to build them up. And I've never felt as much of a feeling about we have to save this culture and, than right now. We have to. We have to find out where some of these younger generation, not just in the fire service, but understand where their mindset is and try to help them out and say, yeah, that's cool that you come from that culture, this culture, this culture. Oh, you're an Irish potato eater? That's great. Get your potato and get over here. Hey, Scottish dude, get your whiskey and get over here real quick. But this is our culture. Buy into it. If that's in a business, quarter, if it's at your business or workplace, you got to set forth those standards there. Welcome to this job. This is how we do it. We are open to your opinions, but for the most part, this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to teach you, and we're going to build you up because we want an awesome person working for us. And how many times do you do things on a fire scene by yourself? Yeah. Not a lot. It's usually with a team. Right. So why not come up with the best team that you can have? A team like you built here, a team like a lot of us. There's so many great fire companies in Indianapolis. I would forget one if I said it. If I tried to list you out. Right. But everybody knows who they are. Mm-hmm. And it's because they have great teams. Right. And they have a long tradition of having great teams, And it just, right now with all the division and stuff, it just, come together. Yeah. Come together. And there's been some awkward talks and stuff, lately with everything going on. But I feel like find out, tell me about why you think this way. Maybe I understand you. You might teach me something. All learning there together, from people from different backgrounds. You never know. I may have had it worse than you, and he may have had it worse than, all of us. Learn people. Something that doesn't get talked about is, I'm not going to get too political here, okay? But there's so much of the Black Lives Matter and everything right now. Okay, and that's fine. I sympathize. I grew up in in Brunswick, Georgia, like I said, and the city of Brunswick's actually has a higher black population than it does white. In the county, it's maybe 60-40, something like that. I grew up with a lot of black brothers and sisters that I love to this day. some I still tune into have their own podcast. Marcus Baker, I listen to him every day. I talk to him all the time. So I'm listening. But something that we don't talk about is that those guys on 9/11, you know, there was 12 black firemen that died in that 343. You know, I think that comes out. You know, I'm not a numbers guy. That I think it comes out to 3% because I read it. You know, and you know, I think at that time, FDNY was 3% black, so it was kind of crazy that, you know, that 3% died on that day. But those 12 firemen, look them up. They are role models.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of those dudes, talk about them. You know, if you want to talk about being, you know, proud from your culture and from the fire culture, buy into that. If you want to focus on those issues with African Americans right now, focus on those 12 dudes and look at how that they served, because they are heroes to me, you know, and I don't care about their skin color, and neither did the other brothers that died with them that day. You know, right. There was Irish dudes and Scottish dudes and Italian dudes, hardest dudes you probably ever known, that wept over losing guys like Cherry that day. He's one of the senior men that sit there and would sing at all the national anthems. You know, a strong black fireman. You know, he's just one of them. But they were all brothers that day.
Right.
So yes, I understand that we got to do better at this, right? But while we're trying to get better at this, don't be so divisive. Come together and remember that we still have a greater culture. You know, we really do. And let's just take care of each other.
Yeah, we do. We touch a lot on what we build with culture within our company, like you hinted to, you know, building that family and the culture around your company. And sometimes people aren't just a fit in that culture, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, we've had issues down there in Brunswick. You've probably seen it in the news. Maud Arbery was shot and killed down there. And by the way, I run with Maud, so I'm all down. I think that he was gunned down. So that's where my heart is. You know, but I'm just saying, be nice to people, take care of each other.
Well, yeah, like,
you know,
I think the thing too that we're talking about here, if we're going to get macro but come back down to the micro, is that any listener is one person.
Yes,
you're one person. I'm one person. So sometimes when we think about 9/11 or the issues going on in the world, I think it comes down to what can we do right now. And we want to do so much, but then it becomes overwhelming because it's such a big thing to tackle, right?
Well, we said forget the mule, though, right?
So then you come into the situation where you're like, what can I do today? Well, for us in our company, the way we approach this is it's our guiding principle. Treat every customer the way you would want your family to be treated. Well, guess what? That didn't come from some original brainstorm that I had or that Jeff had. It came from the Bible. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So
exactly,
you know, so tie that into 9/11, never forgetting. So bring it home, right?
Right.
Those guys and women that died that day, not just in the FD, Port Authority, FD, you know, the FDNY, the NYPD, the civilians.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's still something that we can do each day to never forget, and it comes into the golden rule, right? Treat other people the way that you want to be treated.
Yes.
If you yourself
100%.
coming back up to the ranks of building a business or being a leader in the fire department, you come to a point where you want to learn, so you wish that somebody would reach down and pick you up and teach you, right? And teach you the good ways of being a firefighter, being a good entrepreneur, teach you the ways. So when that time comes when you're that person, you reach down. Not just how to be a good firefighter, not just how to be a good business owner, how to treat people. You should also be in a role when you're a mentor or where you're a leader. You are not just a leader of a tactical skill. That's not a leader. That's called being a trainer of a tactical skill. We're talking about being a leader. It can be a wide spectrum, right? And some of those times means, back to Johnny's point, you might have to sit that person down and say, hey, man, listen, I'm a little disappointed. And here's the situation. Here's how it unfolded. here's where I think we went a little sideways, and we
The
need to
tough
bring
conversations.
the tough conversations.
This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you.
So, I mean, we could keep going on this for
sure.
days, but man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
and sharing
for
your,
sure.
your wisdom with us,
here.
dude. And you touched on so many different topics that are probably each in and of themselves a topic we could
Yeah,
do on the podcast.
definitely.
But today,
Definitely. We could go on for
And
hours.
bring it home for us
I
on 9/11.
misquoted Brother Randy, and I know
Okay.
I felt him looking down, and it's forget the mule, load the wagon.
load the wagon.
Yes.
Got it, got it.
So,
Okay.
but I think that's a great lesson. So, but thank you guys. I'm really proud to be here. You know, y'all need me for anything, I'm here. So, and what a better, couldn't think of a better day to be with some real brothers, you know, be with some like-minded people.
Of course.
Thank you,
Yeah.
my man.
So we're going to wrap up. I just want to say for 9/11 specifically, there's a lot of good resources out there to learn about. Dennis Smith is a great one. You passed his name on to me.
Yeah.
Engine Company 82 and Ground Zero specifically for 9/11.
Awesome.
Great books to read up on, the Gaudet documentaries. And, of course, there's so many out there to learn and read up on this event and what happened. And especially if you weren't alive during this time, I highly recommend learning about this. There's a lot to learn from it, and just to honestly keep it near and dear to your heart. I get goosebumps just thinking about it and where I was at that day. It's definitely something I will not forget ever. A big event for sure. So want to thank all of them for their service. People still fighting from this. If you don't understand
they're still
this,
dying.
there's people that have gotten cancer from being there on site at Ground Zero and helping out afterward.
From Indiana too, from
Yes.
Indianapolis and from Gary.
IFD in Indiana.
You know,
Yeah.
Buckrop, who's a
Yes.
Gary Lieutenant, great man, great fireman. You won't find too many other better firemen around, and he went and served and fought cancer. You know, guys are still fighting.
Yeah, so it's still 9/11 still has effects to this day for people that were there. So we thank everybody and definitely those that gave the ultimate sacrifice to help others and their community and serve their community. It's definitely a true inspiration for me and us that are sitting here today. So we thank all of you and their families that are still out there today. So we thank all of you, and that's all I've got to wrap up on this episode for 9/11.
We owed it, yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining Firepreneurs today. We hope that we delivered value in your leadership journey. We humbly ask that you take the time to leave us a 5-star review, as that's how our podcast will rise in rankings and become available to more people. We'd love to hear from you, so you can email us by emailing firepreneurs@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or by watching us on our Firepreneurs YouTube channel. Stay hungry and get after it.